Now let's look at what NATO's big brother, the US, is doing in the other side of the world. After all, Washington has interests all over the planet and enemies too. One of the biggest rivals is Iran, and Tehran seems to be making some bold moves lately. Last week, Iran released footage of its navy capturing an oil tanker. It was sailing out from Kuwait and apparently bound for the US. Then 2 days ago, the US says a second tanker was captured. Washington says Tehran is up to its old tricks, disrupting the region's oil trade. But it seems the US has a solution now. It wants to line the entire Arabian Peninsula with robots at sea. The US is trying to convince its Gulf allies to add dozens of robot ships around the peninsula. Our next report has the details.
Iran's apparently at it again, disrupting oil flows in the Persian Gulf. Last week, Iran's navy seized an oil tanker near the Gulf nation of Oman. It was called the Vantage Suite. Iran's state media even released this video showing the capture. The tanker was flagged to the Marshall Islands. It's a small island nation in the Pacific Ocean. Why did Iran capture their oil tanker? Reports say it's because of where the tanker was headed. It set sail from Kuwait and was bound for Houston, Texas in the US. Basically, Iran captured an American oil shipment. Then Tehran allegedly did it again this week. This time the US released this footage. It purportedly shows Iran's Revolutionary Guard surrounding an oil tanker. This one is called the Niovi. It's flagged to the Central American nation of Panama. Iran hasn't officially acknowledged this second capture yet. Now the question is, why is Iran stalling US oil deliveries? It's part of the larger US-Iran tensions. Tensions which have been exacerbated due to recent diplomatic events. Iran's long-standing rivalry with Saudi Arabia is ending. China brokered a deal to normalize ties between the two nations. Then, there's the Gulf nations trying to bring Syria back into the Arab fold. Syria's ruling regime is allied with Iran. Basically, tensions between the Arab Gulf nations and Iran are going down. It leaves Iran with more time to focus on other problems, namely the US. And of course, Washington is in a bind. On the one hand, it can't overtly call for West Asian nations to shun Iran. It has to pretend, at least, that it's happy about the tensions receding. No one wants to look like a warmonger, after all. But how can the US isolate Iran if Gulf nations are trying to mend ties? Bring up oil security, of course. Washington wants to surround the Arabian Peninsula with robots at sea. The US Fifth Fleet is based in Bahrain. It actually leads international coalitions from the Gulf nation. As part of this alliance, the US has already deployed over 50 robots at sea in the region. These are also called unmanned surface vehicles, or USVs. Basically, naval drones that float on the ocean surface. The US says it's a cheap way to have eyes on Iran's navy at all times. Cheap, of course, is subjective. The robots cost between $800,000 to $3 million. But they might well be within budget for America's oil-rich Gulf allies. It's even incentivizing the robots by removing red tape. They're exempt from America's lengthy foreign military sales process. The Gulf nations can snap these up quick. Despite this, the robots don't have too many takers. So far, only Bahrain and Kuwait have publicly announced plans to buy them. But the US is hopeful. It plans to have more than 100 sea robots patrolling the Persian Gulf by the end of this summer. And Iran's fuel tanker heists will definitely be used as a sales pitch for more robots at sea.